Well, hello, I'm alone in Finland and this is Rust. Now, I've talked about this game several times and I've talked about the company behind it, which is one of my favourite sort of games companies in general because they do an awful lot to continue the development of their game that was already released. They have a few unique methods, or not so unique, but nice methods of raising funding to continue development, and they are putting so much into the game that it's phenomenal. And something that has just happened is that there has been another update, and there will be another update coming at the beginning of next month that's going to change a few things in the game significantly yet again. But every time they do it, it's never nerfing, it's always adding. And part of the way that they do this, just to sort of quickly explain, they do sell skins. You can buy the skins directly from them. You have to, if you're on Steam, you go into the store page, and then on the store page, there's a little section for skins if you scroll down, or you can do it straight through the client, as you can see here. And you have various different things that some are more expensive, some are less expensive, some are a couple of euros, and occasionally they come up where everything that's generated from them just goes to charity, not to the developers. As you can see here, there's a Warhammer crossover thing going on at the moment as well, and most of the stuff in general is not in any sort of form of pay to win. If we have a look at the DLC here, you can see that you've got the likes of the voice props, where it was just putting sound into the game, which was funny. You've got the likes of the Sunburn pack, which is fantastic because it's essentially towels, boogie boards, and swimming pools. So it isn't really something that is changing the game. It is just something that's a little bit of a bonus, a little bit of a laugh. The instruments pack was hysterical when it first came out, and it still is a laugh every once in a while. You can hook MIDI into it, so you can actually get people playing the likes of Bohemian Rhapsody on a piano, sat in their bass, just trolling people. But one of the things about this, if you look at YouTube, you will see that Rust is a PvP game and very severely PvP. However, that's not all of it. And one of the things I like about this is that it can actually be a very chill game. And part of that is going into the servers. So as you see here, we've got the official servers and there's a few of them kicking around about. But we also have the community servers, and you can see that there are thousands of community servers of various different sort of sizes and play states, from 500 all the way down to 0. We have modded, which can change various different things about how the game works. Some people do it for training, some people do it for, as you can see here, PvE, minigames, roleplay, build servers, combat training, creative, battlefield, battle royale, etc. So there's various different things that are going on within it. But for me, what I want to focus on and what I quite enjoy, and I'll sort of give a demonstration of it, is the sort of the calmer stuff. You get some beginner servers, you get quieter servers, and one of the ways to do this is to just sort by players, but go to the ones that are low population. And you want something that's got a low cap, about 100 players. I wouldn't go as low as 40, because that's usually just somebody who's putting their thing online and they're not really interested in other people playing with them. But at the same time, the bigger you go, the more expensive it is, sort of thing. So it's balancing the cost of the server. So I'd say look for around about 70 to 100 players, and then look for something that's got a few people active, not one or two, but maybe sort of 3 to 5 that's active. And you will get a few servers in there where they are just sort of chilled out servers. You can also have a look online and see how long servers have existed. If you find a longer one, that'll be something that's sort of established for a while. And something you could do is just go in and practice and see what the game is for what it is. The reason I would sort of advise against beginner servers that are modded, and also to be careful for some of the beginner servers that are in the community category, which technically means they're unmodded, is because some of them will have differences in playstyle. For instance, base degradation or how much you're harvesting might be changed. So if you then sort of learn the game on one of these servers, or you're just having a sort of chilled practice on one of these servers, it's not the same if you want to go and play on some of the official servers. And you might get caught off guard if you've learned in a way. part of the reason that I've remembered to say this is because it's not just modded. For instance, the Norwegian beginner server here, which is a very nice server, very chilled out, but it also has manipulated stats on it. So technically it's vanilla, but they've changed how items degrade. They have sort of doubled or possibly tripled the amount that you harvest from nodes, and your stacks are larger. So going from that to an official server might be quite a shock when you've got sort of half the ability to gather. Things take an awful lot longer. So I would sort of try and stick to a pure vanilla server when you're starting off. But with that said, there's a couple of servers going on, and as you can see here in my history, because this is a sort of fresh install of the game, I've not played in a long time, and also because of the fact that there has been a lot of updates since the last time that I played. Just going onto the front page, trains didn't exist, or trains had just come into the game with the underground tunnel when I was last playing, but I hadn't much experience with them. Now there is various types of trains, and they come above ground and all sorts of things. I am aware that there's a whole new jungle biome that I've never seen before, and a few other things. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an example going through this, and at the same time I have started up a server for this, and you're more than welcome to join. It's, as you can see up here, it's called Alone in Finland. It's a solo duo beginner, so that means that you can sort of join in teams of 1 or 2, well, solo or teams of 2, just to get a little bit of practice and a feel for the game. You can sort of mess about, do what you want, and because it's lower population and it's a large map, you should be able to stay isolated from other people if that's what you choose to do. But for me filming, it meant that it would be a little bit easier to sort of guarantee what was going on. One of the previous examples that I've had of this with a different server years ago was the owner was fantastic, and it was a small niche community, about 15 people that played constantly, and occasionally we would actually go and play the main servers in a group sort of that had come from this server. However, one of the things that happened was one day the server owner's boy came on, and he just decided to go through and wreck and sort of destroy everything. And it was quite nasty for the things that happened, and it sort of shows about knowing who you're playing with or what servers you're sort of playing, getting to know the community around about them in some cases. Obviously you don't get those issues with the big servers, and there are main servers that are sort of limited to sort of solo duos, I think. I'm sure that that's going on. So there you go, a premium trio or things like this. So smaller amounts, Rust solo only, that are in the official ones. The last thing that I want to say about this sort of links into this little premium badge that you can see. So premium is essentially to stop people just creating accounts, hacking, and sort of getting going. One of the things that comes up an awful lot is if you go to buy Rust sort of outside of Steam, you'll see it for sale for like €5, but what you're actually buying is a Steam account that's got Rust on it. And there are a lot of these kicking about, and they are used for hacking and things like this. This is one of the best parts of Rust that this is paid attention to. So they sort of put this thing on where you have to have spent about €15 to get access to the premium servers. This is just in the skins and the DLC and things like this. So this is a new thing for me. I hadn't seen it before, but I do think it's a good idea. It is a little bit of a pay barrier for new accounts, but as a new account you don't need to go onto premium servers, and the lower population sort of beginner servers are a better idea. But also it sort of means that there is less of that sort of a hacker changing accounts constantly and sort of always knew they have to have spent a bit more money to do it. So it sort of punishes them so that they don't get access, while not exactly pulling the restriction away from the rest of the community, because there are so many servers there. But at the same time, when it comes to the actual server admins, when you're talking about the main sort of servers, what is kind of being called premium, but you just sort of mean official, there is almost always server admins on. So if you have a problem with a cheater, it will be dealt with really fast. And as I've said for other games, some people understand how many hackers there are, but some people don't understand that there have been studies in various games done that show that it's something between 2 and 20% of players that are hacking in certain games. Minecraft had one particular study, a self-reporting study, where 40% of the players in the study admitted to hacking on sort of multiplayer games. So this is something that is very common, and Facepunch is very good at dealing with it. It is not a fancy technology or anything like this. It is just hard work and perseverance, which I think is fantastic. And when it comes to the smaller community servers, the same thing will happen. If you call out something, you will most likely get an admin having a look through the debug camera and just watching what the player's doing. It's very easy to see if somebody's tracking things, and there's many videos online about it. I would advise going and having a look at some of the other videos. There's a lot of good people putting out content for Rust, and my personal favourite, which is sort of partly where the name came from, is Alone in Tokyo, who is a fantastic guy that plays solo and builds fantastic bases on large servers and then defends against big raids, multi-person raids. It is something brilliant to watch. But with that, let's get into it, and I'll sort of go through quite quickly what it is to sort of start and build up, and how you can sort of play on these smaller servers where it's not running for the meta or the most effective. So let's begin. Well, here we are, naked on the beach and asleep. This is how everybody starts in Rust. So if we just click, we are up. Oh, we have food straight away. Nice. Water and a potato. That was an interesting start. So one of the first thing that's going on with this is we have a map here. Ignore the death in the middle, that's where the server reset. And we have a whole load of monuments, and what you want to do is you want to create a base and survive. That's the whole sort of niche of Rust. It's a nice simple survival game. You have various different wipes of different lengths, so some people will run for an entire month before resetting the server. Some people will do it every week or every couple of days and things like this. And it's just a base building sort of creation thing. It's essentially like Lego, in my opinion. You need some materials. So as you can see here, we have a pile of wood. These spawn like nodes. We've got a whole load of animals over there. And all you want to do is gather materials and get your base down and started. Once you're harvesting, as you can see here, X marks a spot. You want to try and keep hitting that, and you'll harvest a lot faster and get, I think you get a little bit more wood for it. As you can see with the nodes, I'm just whacking right on top of the little star, same as the X marks the spot on the tree. And this will give us some stone to be able to create a base. Nice and simple. We have a cross here that is part of the Halloween thing, which will give us some wood. There's some metal ones and some gravestones and things. But as you can see, we have a good example here. This is stone, which you need for building. This is iron ore, which you can smelt down into metal fragments. And this is sulfur, which you need for making boom. Nice and simple. So let's clear out some of these, and then I'll get on to the next bit, which is some of the smaller monuments. Before we get onto the monuments, now that I've got a little bit of rock and a little bit of wood, we need to craft some materials. So as you can see here, if we hit the tab screen, we have a few things in the quick menu. If you hit Q, you'll bring up the full sort of crafting menu, and you can see here it's sort of split into different things. You've got tools for building. The building plan and a hammer are what you're going to use to create bases, doors and a lock for said doors, and some basic weapons and things like this. And as we go through them, there's a few other things. The next most important one is storage boxes in the furnace, because this is how you will create things. A sleeping bag is your respawn point, and you will need a tool cupboard within every single base to create things. So first things first, I'm just going to create a stone hatchet and a pickaxe. As you can see from my lovely pixelated person here, you can't actually change the the avatar you spawn with. So once you spawn, that is who you are, and it creates randomly. So in case you were wondering, no, that was not me that picked that body, but for the rest of time I shall be this. If you get the luck of the draw, you will be a small woman, however, because it gives you a slightly smaller hitbox. So there are advantages to it. But with that all being done, let's get on and start harvesting some stuff. Right, so now that we've collected a fair few things, the easiest thing we can do is take the horse that happens to be here. This is a particularly lucky spawn, but it's also because I'm first one on the server. But if we head down, we should be able to get across the water and go and see the lighthouse. So if we have a look around here, you can... Oh, right away a shotgun. Nice. That'll do. So the green key cards, you get green, blue and red key cards, which will give you access to various other monuments, so they are good to pick up. And does that give us... That gives us a bit of light. And then we shall head upstairs. You will sort of get to know where certain spawns are for various things. Aye, I missed. Shows how out of practice I am. Up here we have a recycler. Now, I can toss these things into the recycler. And I'm going to keep those because they're good for garage doors, which is something that I will hopefully get at some point. So all we're doing is having a look around for more crates that will give us more loot. So we've got a little bit of scrap. Oh, there we go, got something else I can turn in for it. And your scrap is essentially your main currency in the game. What you can do with it, instead of harvesting, going around and grabbing all the stuff the same way that I am, what you can actually do is go to some of the monuments. So for instance, as I mentioned earlier, the bandit camp, if you want to build around about the bandit camp, it's not bandit camp, I'm looking for the other one. Ah, here we go, outpost. So in outpost, you'll be able to exchange for scrap for components. So you can actually just collect the scrap and then straight away get steel, metal, wood, and you can exchange wood for stone and stone for wood, etc. It's a way of getting a little bit more, especially when you're further on in the game, if you're building up a little bit better instead of going and farming nodes. You can also get tools there. Your tools increase, as you can see here. I've got the pick and the axe. However, you can also get other tools that are better versions of the axe, and then you can get a jackhammer and a chainsaw, which allows you to farm at an incredible rate. So it's something that you can find different ways of achieving the same goals. Now, once you make it to the roads, one of the easiest ways to collect loot in general is to just walk the roads. You will actually pick up quite a lot of scrap going from place to place. As you can sort of see here, we want to break every barrel. You will also get fuel from the oil barrels, so this will give me both fuel and, if I toss that grub, we'll get the fuel and the crude oil. So that's the stuff that we want. Fusees are very good as well. So we want to try and grab as much scrap as possible, and then any ancillary items that we want to sort of pull down. Now if I see something that doesn't have a box, I'll usually skip it at this point. If I was on foot, then I wouldn't skip it, I would sort of go for it straight away. And over there is a scientist, which would have killed me if he had seen me. So I'm just going to get away before he absolutely brains me. I don't know why he didn't. That little radio peak that you heard. Oi, oi, oi. There's a scientist. He has seen me. So I've got to run for my horse. Aye. There was me thinking there was a problem with the server. No, just one scientist having a nap. Jesus. So we are heading the wrong way. I want to be heading inland more, but I'm going to keep following the road all the way around. As you can see here, it sort of loops along And there is a trail here that will go up to the abandoned supermarket, which is also a good place for looting that doesn't have a radiation requirement. And here we go. So just lighten up so that everybody else can see. We have a shocking lack of loot, which also happened in the last place. It was missing loot that I expected would be there. Missing a lot of loot. So we have the recycler here. I'm just going to toss in some stuff. And put this back in because those three will give me a good amount of scrap. There we go. And I'll also put this tarp in because that'll give us some more cloth. I'm not recycling the gears because although I could do with them, they are very useful in a little bit. And I want to try and get some scrap and get some stuff unlocked fairly quickly. Whoa! Zombie thing. Let's get going. It attacks my horse. Don't have a weapon to take it out yet, so I'm just going to run. However, I should probably figure out where I'm going in the dark. That's not a normal thing in a Rust game. Those little things are usually entities around about Halloween, and I think sometimes it comes up at Christmas. They do make it a little bit interesting for the season, but it's not a normal thing. Although the scientists do exist around certain scrap piles and obviously on some monuments, so that's where a little bit of the PvE comes from. And then we do have wolves and the like of the wild animals. Right, military tunnels are there. I would actually like to be building fairly close to bandit camp, but I'm thinking around about here would be better. Somewhere close to Oxiums. I do want it to be flat, and that allows me to run over the hill to get to Oxiums gas station, so that might be a good idea. Oh, this looks like a good wee area. Yeah. This should do us. Have we got anywhere that's got a nice little divot in it? Right, so this is the part where we start differing from what you would normally get on a YouTube video, the normal method that people will go for, where they would build a 1x1, a 1x2, or maybe even 2x2 as their base. That's just referring to the square grid that's on the ground. I'm building something bigger, and that's because I'm on a low population server, because I'm on at wipe day and I've got a bit of time and I've moved away from the spawn points. So I believe at this point there was 2 other people on the server, so chances of them coming over sort of what I'm doing is very low. So I've got a little bit more freedom to build up something and create a little bit of a base that is a bit bigger without sort of that initial stepping stone base. And I can also run away from it even though it's part completed without any doors or anything like that, harvest a few nodes, come back and continue building. And as you can see here, I've sort of gotten it up to stone. I'm starting to place a couple of the roof triangles and having a bit of time with this because they ain't the easiest. And then after this I actually lost the footage of the base completion, though you will see it in a bit, but the story sort of picks up as I've gone back onto the road and wandered out, and I believe I've actually gone all the way into the jungle for the first time, and I'm at one of the jungle monuments where I realised that my camera is no longer recording, so we pick it back up there. Right, so let me explain this one more time. The camera went off because my hard drive was full, so I've cleared up some space, and I talked through all of this very quickly and then realised that my microphone was off. So we spawned over here, and I've basically walked all the way along here, crossed the river, and then come back along and back up, looting as we go. We're currently in the jungle, and we need to head over to the base. So I'm actually going to head up. No, I'm going to head over to the bandit camp just now. So we're going to head back straight across the mountains to bandit camp and grab a minicopter, because out of all of the stuff that we have looted, I've got a fair few things. I've got an airdrop, I've got a garage door which I need to research, and then I've just got a whole load of materials and scrap and all of that jazz. So we have some stuff. I've got an extra backpack here and a fair few other things. So this will do is, if we can get back and start exploring with the minicopter and get some things built up. So after a not insignificant amount of time, we managed to get all the stuff depoted back at the base, bring out some of the scrap, and we are now getting our first minicopter. This is one of the parts that becomes more important if you're on a bigger map. Transport is essential when you're moving around about, but the problem with minicopters is that they can be easily stolen. So it's something that you it's good and bad. You've got to work out each way that you use it. We also have transport in the form of motorbikes, bicycles, cars and boats. But this is the first minicopter that I'm taking on this particular map, and I've set up the base accordingly. So it comes with 50 fuel. We've got extra fuel to do it, but I'm just taking it straight back to the base at the moment, and I'll use it later on. And it's a little bit janky to fly if you're not used to it. Once you start getting used to it, they are fantastic. I've had a few problems because I've been flying in another game where my controls were reversed. I can fly either way, it just takes me a minute or so. So nice and simple, sort of standard helicopter controls, and in my mind they shouldn't be improved in any way because they actually work quite well for the idea of the game. That being that you're sort of a clone on an island or alone on an island, and you're sort of learning these things. It shouldn't be something like a superhero thing as opposed to just trying to survive. So we're just bringing it back to the base, and this will give you the sort of first look at what I've actually built for this particular wipe. And they change every time. I've got a sort of almost standard design that I use for initial runs, and this is a little bit of a bastardization of that. So as you can see there, I haven't put the garage doors in place yet, but to get this to last a little bit longer, I just need to get it in there. And one of the things that I had forgotten at this stage is that if you hold control, you can actually drive the helicopter. It has been that long, but this is us getting it back, and then we'll get the base put together. And then next step is to set out, and in my way I would put out a second farming base, which is what I'm going to do. But I'd essentially build it up so that I've got multiple bases around about the map, so that not everything is located in one place, just in case one does get raided. But simultaneously, it gives you a little bit of respite if you're in colder biomes or desert biomes. You can sort of adjust kit and save things there and there. So let's show you what's going on after a little bit of progression and a couple of days sort of on and off of the server. Just another little bit that I want to highlight. I had to run out and do a bit of mining because I needed a whole load of spears, or a little bit of wood chopping because I needed a whole load of spears, and that was because there was a part of the base I wasn't happy with and I hadn't altered it in time. It become sort of solid. Because it was a stone wall, I could do what's called spear raiding or eco raiding against my own base. So just craft up a whole load of spears, and over time just keep breaking until I manage to collapse the wall, and then that's down. It's not something you can do with steel, but it is something that you can do with wood and stone bases, and it's a useful little tip for using against other people's bases, or if you make a mistake in your own thing. So once we've got our base down, the main priority shifts to being able to farm up materials a little bit faster, and this especially comes for metal fragments and things like this. And with that, a lot of people put down a secondary base, a farming base. So I've just had a look around about where's a good location for me to put a farming base. I would like it to be in the snow because I would like it to be next to a lot of nodes for node generation, so a lot of farming materials will be available there. But at the same time, I want it fairly close to large oil rig because that's one of the monuments that I like running the most. So it's just a case of going out there, taking some materials to build up the base, and as you can see here, killing a polar bear on the way because you can make fuel off of the polar bear. So whenever bears or boars come up, I usually stop to take them out because they add fuel. And simultaneously we just want to get out there, find a location, and I want it to be next to the water. This isn't something that most people do, although it does come up an awful lot, where they will make a boat base. And for me, I make it a combined heli and boat base so that I can fly out to it with the heli. I've got enough storage for 2 helis in it, and at the same time I can also put a boat in there as an emergency. If something goes wrong, I can take the boat out and recover things from the oil rig with the boat, providing I haven't screwed up too badly. So in this map in white for me, it's going behind the launch site and then sort of dropping down onto the ice next to the sea, and then it's just a case of sort of figuring out where is the best place to be able to build a base where I can have a dropped layer that's submerged in the water that's enough for the boat to come through. Obviously the Arctic water is a bit harder to see through, so I'm going to get wet doing this. So I also want to craft and put down a fire, so that will heat me up. I can stand next to it, it can generate stuff, and obviously I've got some of the polar bear meat there that I can cook and use for food, but it's mainly the heat to dry me off because the wet condition sort of loses health and makes the cold attack even more severely. So it's best to stay dry, it's best to stay warm, and I just sort of mess about here for a little bit of time, figuring out the best place to put the foundation of the base, the best way to sort of lay it out. And this is sort of what I've come up with for the beginning, so that I've got the ability to launch from the sea, so that I've got the ability to bring a helicopter into the top of it, and at the same time I've got some space for some loot. Now it doesn't need to be a severely defended base, it just needs to be enough to sort of survive while you're away from it for a short amount of time. So a couple of doors to raid it, or a garage door to raid it, is not a particularly bad thing for one of these bases. They are not meant to contain your main loot for any period of time, although for me that's kind of gone sideways at the moment, but it's just something to get you through a few sort of hours while you are running the bigger monuments, and be able to store your vehicle or things like that without it degrading. So as you can see here, putting the launch pad in, and then after a significant amount of time we have gotten our base completed, and I've done an awful lot of more runs, going to various different monuments, grabbing a fair few things from around about the place, and bringing a boat back so that we can have a boat inside the boat base to use as the backup. So at this particular moment it has actually been about 3 separate days of playing, and in that time I haven't been raided because it's a low population server. You will get some people that come on that are still looking to raid and things like that, but this is sort of the advantage of this type of play, where you've got the advantage of just sort of a more chilled play and not having to worry as much, not having to amp up your defences for the next 500 people that are going to come through looking for an easy score or just the challenge of raiding a base. So for me, this is where the main story sort of comes to fruition. I've now got a main base set up, I've now got a farming base set up, and I can actually start running some of the bigger monuments and having a little bit of fun with that. For me, one of the best fun monuments to run is the large oil rig. And the way that I normally do it, you'll sort of see in front of you, I'm just going to run out with the helicopter, land in a specific place, which is sort of to the fire side. There's a little sort of fire node that's the opposite side from the helipad, and on the second from top floor you can land the heli in there and quickly dart into the tunnels and then sort of slowly farm out the people. And this is one of the ones that I quite enjoy doing to get us a little bit more scrap and things like this, to create some more bases and to modify things and start to put more defences and electrics and things like that up. But I find this one of the more calm ways to play Rust. It is obviously a game that has a lot of PvP focus, so if you're interested in that, there are definitely options out there. And there are pure build servers where you can just go on and sort of build up stuff, see what works and things like that. There's a sort of niche for everybody, if you will. So I hope everybody's enjoyed that sort of little intro. If you haven't played it, Rust is actually on sale at the moment. I don't have any codes or things like that. I'm not sponsored by Face Punch. I've never had any communications with them. This is just a game I'm a big fan of, and I find it quite relaxing, which is a little bit ironic compared to the way that most people play, and the majority of video contents that are online on YouTube and things like that are always the sort of heavy PvP focus, and that's not sort of the main focus for me. I like the building aspect of it, so I like spending a bit of time and going through it, and the low population servers are the answer to that. So there's something out there for everybody. It's on sale at the moment on Steam. As per usual, down in the doobly-doo, if you are somebody that's into the Eve stuff, there is the link at Dragon Marquee, or Marquee Dragon, that has sort of cheaper things if you're wishing to look for that stuff. If you've got suggestions for any other games or things like that, I'm more than willing to hear them and to explore and see things that I've maybe not have played yet. I do have another video coming out at some point when I've sort of finished off the filming, for another game that I've sort of more recently been introduced to, which is sort of like the offline version, the zombie survival version of Rust, which obviously was originally a zombie survival game. So it is something that would be that will be coming at some point in time. But there's a lot going on in Eve at the moment, so I'm spending a bit of time on that, and I'm spending a bit of time on this. The Alone in Finland server is up if you want to join me, and I intend to keep it going for quite a while, so you are more than welcome to join if you're in the EU. There are other servers from other people around about the place. This isn't something I sort of make money off of, or like a lot of the YouTubers seem to have their servers, and especially the ones that have pay to win bollocks on it. This is just something that I thought would be a little bit fun. I like it for myself, so for anybody else that's wanting to join, it's there. So with all that being said, thanks for watching. Bye.